Is AI making the job market better or worse? We're going to find out with today's amazing special guest, Dante Crowther. Today's episode is brought to you by Fraction AIO. Is your company growing, but your operations are still stuck in the past? If your team is drowning in manual data entry or you're watching potential deals slip away, you need more than just ChatGPT. You need a strategy. Fraction AIO builds the systems that scale with you. They replace expensive overhead with automated workflows and deploy custom AI lead generation engines that run 24/7. Whether you need a fractional AI officer to steer the ship or a custom build to automate your sales pipeline, Fraction AIO turns hype into higher margins. Stop letting inefficiency eat your profits. Book your discovery call today at fractionaio.com. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast, where we make AI simple, practical, and accessible for small business owners and leaders. Forget the complicated tech talk or expensive consultants. This is where you'll learn how to implement AI strategies that are easy to understand and can make a big impact for your business. The Artificial Intelligence Podcast is brought to you by Fraction AIO, the trusted partner for AI digital transformation. At Fraction AIO, we help small and medium-sized businesses boost revenue by eliminating time-wasting, non-revenue generating tasks that frustrate your team. With our custom AI bots, tools, and automations, we make it easy to shift your team's focus to the tasks that matter most, driving growth and results. We guide you through a smooth, seamless transition to AI, ensuring you avoid costly mistakes and invest in the tools that truly deliver value. Don't get left behind. Let Fraction AIO help you stay ahead in today's AI-driven world. Learn more and get started at fractionaio.com. Now, Dante, I'm excited to have you here because you have two areas of expertise that are very interesting to me. You have experience with the military in that transition, and you're right in the middle of what I think is one of the toughest job markets, not because there are no jobs, but because there are so many people applying for every single position that it's hard to get noticed, even if you are the most qualified person for the job. It's so hard to break through that signal to noise ratio right now.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. I'm much appreciated. Yes, actually, I would concur. I would concur in that it is a challenging time to be in search. It is difficult to stand out, but it doesn't have to be the most challenging time in the world, right? Everything's the most challenging thing in the world when you lack enough information on what it is you're trying to accomplish. All is accomplishable with time, effort, and energy. The job market, current times, 2025, going into Q4 here, the AI has been phenomenal in so many ways, but I think there's a large misnomer or high expectations, shall we say, within human capital management that AI is going to make the world a better place, right? And it has its place. I was excited to sit down this morning and frankly learn from you, Jonathan, more about AI itself. I've worked with plenty of executives who are specialists in that, but ultimately I'm not that guy. And so where I have in the last 2-3 years seen a very active utilization of artificial intelligence within recruiting, headhunting, placement, outplacement, both employer side, employee side, job seeker, so on. It's just increasing the speed, the rate of change, but it's not increasing the quality of, well, I'll use recruitment, right? Because that's a very broad area that most people utilize, know of. Recruitment, it's transactional, right? The employee themselves that's fitting into the role, that's stepping into that role, they are the widget, if you will, right? It's a B2B business model. Most people don't understand that. Everybody says, oh, a recruiter works for me. They work for you. Why didn't they cost you anything? Last I checked, shakes and pressing flesh means something still. And so in that capacity, AI has done phenomenal at helping people who are inundated in their job, say recruiters directly, right? The agents, for them being able to sift through a tremendous amount of information, data, phenomenal. But when it comes to, okay, well, how has it actually made it better? How have recruiters overall, how is the recruiting industry, say, or human capital management, how have we been able to place better talent in a more efficient time with longer retention rates? I haven't seen that yet. I've actually seen the opposite of that in a large area, right? And the reason for that is because you have recruiters who will say this, you have firms and companies that are willingly outsourcing and automating a lot of the human factor within their companies of human capital management firms in supplement with AI. The problem with that is you're taking the human out of human capital management. Shout out to Joe Carbone, founder of Eastwood Partners. I know that's his tagline, but I've been saying it for years. Met him a few years back. That is a major challenge that I am currently still seeing in human capital management. It's just not increasing the quality of the outcome. It's increasing the quantity of product per se that is moving, right? Your inbound, outbound, but you're not getting a larger ROI on it. You're not able to increase the quality of the placement. You're not able to increase the retention rate of the placement. It's simply a tool to increase the speed at which recruiters and individual humans are moving and processing information. It has nothing to do with the quality of it. That's still the human focus.
Yeah, I think that it's the same in a lot of places. There's this promise that AI will make everything better, make everything faster. You don't need any employees. And the promise is always around the corner. It's about to. And I'm someone who's in the middle of it and uses it. I can say, if you're a tier 1 user, it will make you 20% faster. Anything more than that is a lie. That means if you're really good, you can do 4 days of work 4 days a week and get 5 days worth of work done. That's really the best. Any idea that you could really orchestrate and do twice as much work, right? So you're getting 10 days of worth of work done in 5. Well, how much time do you spend reviewing? And what happens is, and I think this is what you're talking about, there's this danger when something is easy. Like when cheating is easy, people do it, right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's the temptation. And I'll give a specific example. I had this roommate once when I was struggling, started my business in 2010. He used my computer to log into his PayPal account. He had a balance of $100,000. He left the room with me logged in. And I was like, I logged out I thought about it like everyone would. And I logged out so fast. And I was like, don't do that. That's not fair. I was making like maybe $2,000 a month at the time, like living on his couch. I was like, you can use my computer whenever you want, but log out. Like you've massively overestimated me. And it's when you make it too easy, when the temptation's too big. And that's what we're seeing. That's why we're seeing like judges write decisions. We're seeing lawyers write case. Like even at the highest levels, there's some suspicions that even at the highest court in the land, some decisions have been written by AI already. That's too much corner cutting. And the danger, it's like, well, you have this discussion with yourself. You go, well, the first 5 were fine. The next one will probably be fine. I don't need to check it as closely. And that's when something slips through the crack, and it's not at the point where you can take your eyes off of it. In the same way with any employee, if an employee knows you're not going to check their work, they start to shave the quality, and it's human nature.
Yes.
So I think that's exactly what's happening when you go, you know what? The AI is pretty good at analyzing these resumes. It's pretty good at transcribing everything. And you're getting an okay result faster. And it sounds like exactly what you're talking about. And I see that happen in a lot of places where there's this temptation to create something that looks as good as the real thing, but isn't. And it's very easy with AI to generate illusions, the illusion of quality, illusion of research. And we've seen that where then you check the links and they're all first and they're not real cases that happened, but they're convincing. The biggest danger with AI, in my opinion, is that it lies with complete confidence.
That's actually a fantastic take. How about that? I like how you said that.
That's what worries me more than anything else. So, and when you say, are you lying to me? I'll go, no. And we'll go, no, how dare you? I'm an AI. So it's so good at this one thing, which is as humans, most of us, when we lie, we have tells. Like when my kids lie, they do something different. There's something about it that's like a little
idiosyncrasies, nonverbals. Yeah. Tics.
Like not with my kids, I'll walk in the room and they'll go, we're not doing anything. And I'm like, that's a guilty start. It's right out the gate. So that's the biggest challenge. So when you cannot tell there's no clue that it's wrong or right based on its answer. And so the temptation we have, and I think this is a huge problem across every industry, is to go, it's probably fine. And you get away with it a certain number of times, but then it's that one time when it's like really important and it makes up that really critical thing that you get caught. And that's when it's really devastating. And so I think that we have oversold how good AI is in order to get sales. And it's not able to deliver on that promise of you can replace your entire support staff. AI is capable of mimicking empathy. It's capable of looking kind of at a picture, but I don't even think it can actually look at a picture, right? It's just scanning the code. It doesn't have a true eye. And that's what I think about, is that it's such a useful tool, but when we treat it like more than a tool, it's like a good emailing tool or a good helper. But as soon as you move it past that, that's when you start to enter a danger zone. And I see this challenge right now for a lot of people, which is I need to apply for a new job. There's so many people applying for every job. So the only way I can compete is I have to apply for more. And so here's what everybody does. And I'm sure everyone says, ChatGPT, here's the job I'm
Yeah.
applying for. Here's my resume. Match them up. And even better is make it sound, I love this when people say things like, make it sound like I have the same values as this company. Like that's the next level. And it's like,
God forbid you actually have the same values as that company, or you take the time to
well, you don't have
read
time
what
to
their
look
values
because you have to
are.
apply for 600 jobs.
Right.
And it's not, and the thing is, non-malicious and malicious people use it the same way. That's the problem. So I have had people who apply for a job they're horribly unqualified for. They're just hoping to make it to the first paycheck before you figure out you shouldn't have hired them.
That's
and
terrible.
That's one problem. And then at the other end, you have the problem. People who are amazing are probably the ones who are not cheesing their resumes the most. And so they don't have that perfect match. And it just kind of creates this scenario where there's so much noise because there's so many resumes because people are applying for jobs they're not quite qualified for, overqualified, underqualified, all of those things. And it's very challenging. And I totally understand when you're out of work, that's tough. And I feel like the same thing, like I now would rather have a lower qualified person via a referral than a person who sounds better on paper through traditional hiring practice, because there's the value of the certainty and the pre-vetting element. And like you said, that's what people think when they hire a recruiting agency. That's what they're expecting, like do that. So if they're not doing that, and it sounds like and it's not a surprise, it's like, it's just rolling downhill, unfortunately. So I do wonder what the right solution is in this scenario. Like, how do we get to a place where it's not so crowded applying for jobs again? And I know you're more in the recruitment space, but you have
I'm more
in
in
this area.
How best to say this? So formally, I'm a strategic career development partner with Browning Associates. Browning is a privately held faith-based firm headquartered out of Rhode Island. It's founded by John Zarachek. John has over 35 years consecutively in human capital management, owning firms. Long story short, it's a B2C business model. So it's not recruiting, right? You don't pay a recruiter up front to help you get a job. A recruiter, typically you submit your information, they give you a call, they push you through to some interviews, and then at the end of it, you all sing hurrah if it works, and you keep the phone number. Little do you find out that they were negotiating the comp package and literally say the job pays up to $40 an hour. For every dollar they get you under it, welcome to how recruiters make money. It's business. There's nothing to be mad about. People shouldn't get upset by that. It's just life, the same way everybody has to make a paycheck, make an earnings, right? Thus create value for people. The way Browning works, it's a paid service where it's career advancement and career management. It is formally a senior executive career management firm. So what we do is, and I'll talk on everything that you touched, because frankly, I'm really surprised. You're tracking phenomenally. We just talked about this last week on a team call with leadership. Similar feedback. AI's made phenomenal gains in human capital management with producing volume and quantity. It has not changed quality. And I think, to your point, it is still software. It can't generate emotions based on looking at a piece of artwork or a photo, right? But it can scan it, it can scan the code. Same concept. Where people, I think, could benefit the best from, hey, how do we learn from this? How can I change my quality outcome? Instead of, I don't want to keep applying to 500 jobs a week, Diane, Jonathan. How can I change that? To your point, Browning Associates has a phenomenal track record being able to work with, frankly, the top 10% of the U.S. economy nationwide in helping them go from A to B, employer to employer. And it is predicated heavily on strategic networking. The world runs on referral, right? I'll say that again for everyone. The world runs on referrals. See these two hands, they're made of flesh and bone. You have to touch them together. Being able to do that is what gives you a competitive edge in life. That is where you will always find the highest quality products, services, offerings, information. The highest quality thing of which you desire will always be gatekept or protected, if you will, safeguarded by humans. And that is where the information that we all possess, the confidential information rattling around in our heads that we have to sit there and process and think about, can I not, as far as sharing, that's where, how do you sit down and get referred as an internal candidate? You have to work. I mean, we structure everything in a 4-phase methodology. It takes 3 to 6 months where, we'll go through and do a full overhaul on a client's executive branding, their entire executive portfolio. We've got a team of in-house writers. They're all nationally accredited. And then we go through a second phase of discovery, right? Informally. Formally, we refer to it as marketing. I always tell people it's the equivalent of handing you a blank job description and a headhunter with, on average, 20 years experience doing this with a couple thousand executives. I want you to sit down and talk with them real life. What do you want to do? We need to unpack what their career trajectory is. And that gives you the edge to then network.
So let's break that into pieces, because there's a couple of key things there that I did want to
Sure.
get into that are so important, which is the first most common mistake I see people make is that they start thinking about a transition too late.
Yes.
As in, I can tell you if someone's lost their job because their LinkedIn profile starts blasting out updates. And there are certain behaviors that are giveaways. And there's something about, like, when I was younger, if I was in a relationship, suddenly I'm attractive. If I'm single, I'm untouchable. Like, it's the same thing. You get this stink about you of the unhired. It's like, oh my gosh, it might be contagious. And I don't know why, but it is what it is. And
made that parallel before.
That's the first thing, which is exactly what you said, 3 to 6 months of planning, because, and I learned this from the movie The Tao of Steve, which is to be without intent. If you friendship me because you're hoping I can get you a job, it's going to leak through. But if you friendship me 6 months in advance, you don't have that ulterior motive, that subconscious motive, and allows you to act with more purity or more integrity of intent. And it also means that there's not as much pressure. And the longer you wait, the more you have to take high risk actions, which is blasting out resumes anywhere. That's very much hope related.
Yep. Procrastination.
And just thinking it'll never happen to you. One of the most important things you can do is to work on your soft skills, which are your relationship skills, your networking skills, building out your network. And this is something I've been talking about for like 15 years. I've always talked about this, even before the advent of AI. Now, you can do some cool networking things with LinkedIn, and you can do some cool networking online, but there's still such an advantage to an in-person meeting and forming relationships and kind of spreading out your network, because you never know. That's the first thing. And the second thing I love that you dialed into is, like, when you don't know exactly what you want to do, you end up in a job that you aren't quite the right fit for. It's not what you're expecting, and it doesn't last that long because you're not the right fit, they're not the right fit. And then you have to restart the cycle. Like, there's nothing, when I hire a person, it's usually a 6-week cycle between posting the job and they start. And if it doesn't work, I'm so annoyed to have to restart. That's why I got really into AI. I was like, I'm so tired of these 6-week cycles. That's what drives me crazy. For people, the other worry a lot of people have is that they have to demonstrate, they're like, how much AI knowledge do I need to have to get an executive placement? Or just, I'm a CTO here, can I be a CTO there? Or anything like director and above, like at these leadership levels. That's a common question I get asked, which is like, what level of AI expertise do I need to have? And I often, when someone's lower level, my advice is always to be the first expert in the office. So in the 1980s and 90s, if you knew how to fix the fax machine, they pretty much couldn't fire you because you're the only one to do it, right? You were the first one to figure it out. And then it was email and websites, and then it was social media. And it's like, we can't fire John. He knows all the he's the only one who knows how to fix the printer. He's the only one. And you can become the office AI person, which I think for someone outside the executive suite is a very strong position to be in. Just to be first mover, you want to be the person your boss keeps asking the bad AI questions to. Like, that's a really strong position to be in because you have a secondary expertise. That's what I kind of recommend. But for someone at a higher level, there's such a broad spectrum of expectations. So I'm very interested in your experience of how much do people actually need to know? What level of skill do they need to have? And as another example, at first it was like, I remember when I saw jobs in the 90s, it was like, email skills, a plus. If you know how to send an email, that was a plus, right? And then it was Word skills, a plus. And then it was Microsoft Suite. And then it became a requirement. And now you would never see a job posting saying, we expect you know how to send email. It's such an expectation that it's no longer listed. Where on that spectrum do you kind of think we are with AI, with having the ability to use ChatGPT or something more advanced? Are we in it's a plus, it's optional, or it's starting to push towards mandatory or expected?
I think it's such a gray area. There's no easy answer to this one. The reason for that is because each industry is different. For example, think of your older industries. I know a gentleman who is a fantastic, talented individual. I'll say that is a bit confidential. I can't share his name. But the precious metals, the recycling industry, it's an industry that people don't often think about. What if I told you you could go and become a millionaire tomorrow simply by being, I don't know, 20 years younger than everybody that you're competing against? when we are able to, I want to help the audience on this one, think about where the best opportunities are. Jonathan, you're completely correct on where are the challenges, where are the difficulties. AI and the level of comprehension that we have with it, it's only going to benefit you. The more skills you have that are unique, right? Not standardized. If you are chasing certifications, titles, credentials, endorsements, those are credentialing formats that everyone has equal access to, so long as they have the time and money to acquire them, which makes them less valuable. Whereas someone who is a younger executive and can go into an industry that is predominantly dominated by, say, executives in their 40s and older, right? Those executives grew up in a different time. They remember when phones didn't exist. They had pagers even before then, right? And so the way that they look at life and have Rolodexes, hard copy that they still flip through because they're mentally programmed that way, right? That's where you have an edge, because now you can, with the right mindset, and to your point, Jonathan, with the soft skills, the communication skills that are required to build relationships, that makes a drastic difference. There are industries that, yep, it's absolutely required. And there are industries that people laugh and go, I don't know what it is, right? I mean, my fiance was flying back on a flight yesterday from Alabama after attending a conference, brokered a deal. She does strategic partnerships, brokered a deal with a gentleman she was sitting next to on the plane. She asked him if he knew what ChatGPT was. He said no. This is the CEO of a pretty large, right, multi-million-dollar company, right? Put it that way. No idea what ChatGPT was. This is the U.S. This was, what's the date today? Today is the 20th of October, 2025. So on the 19th of October, 2025, you have a CEO of a 8-figure company operating in the U.S. that doesn't even know what ChatGPT means, right? That is direct proof that for everything that everyone thinks they know and how the world works, it is amazing when you sit down and actually start taking inventory of the hundreds of millions of human beings, right? I am just one. Each individual listener is just one person. When you take into account that the world's a pretty big place, not everyone has access to information like we do. And so that's where just taking the time to first identify where would I have the best competitive edge, what skills would set me apart for this job that I want to go after, and then take the week ahead of you and do nothing but focus on that. Learn it, practice it, and ideally surround yourself with people that you can talk with and spar with and say mock interviewing, right? If you, God forbid, you have a job description and you want to share information and knowledge, and at the end of it, you want to see, okay, well, how much did I educate you? At the end of the day, companies are looking for top talent. Top talent comes in the form of, what do you know that I do not? And what ideas do you have to implement that and monetize it for a positive ROI on the company, right? They don't need another human body to come in and punch a keyboard, frankly. That's where AI will have a continuation and growth within the market. But beyond that point, again, AI, so far, it's only as good as the end user that it's supplied to. And so we need to invest in ourselves and our skills and how to utilize it. And really, this is a topic that I'd love to expand on, but critical thinking, right? It seems like the smarter technology gets, the dumber human beings get. And that scares the heck out of me, frankly, because I love doing business with humans and people in general. And it's watering down people's capabilities.
That's something I think about a lot, which is when I was in college, first of all, I did have a pager and I did.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Right at me. And I used to have, when I was young in my 20s, like a little black book I kept in my pocket with all my numbers.
Yep.
And I had a giant map in my car. And whenever I go to a new state, I'd get a map. So like,
you had to.
Learning how to read a map to people like, but what about a GPS? I'm like, yeah, but the GPS is sometimes wrong, which people can't imagine. And knowing how to get unlost is pretty important. And it's so interesting that we start to lose these skills and we replace them with different skills, but it is dangerous that we start to outsource our decision making, which I think is the danger of AI. But I want to dial into something you talked about in the middle, which I think is the most important, which is that idea of developing unique skills. So there's ways of standing out with your resume, which is I sometimes see people who have like a lot of letters after their name, like they have 17 qualifications, and nobody knows what they mean unless they have the same qualifications. And I always have to look up what all the letters mean. And the problem with qualifications is exactly that. They're kind of universal. So it is important to think I love that you were saying this, like what will make me stand out? What would be unique in the industry I want to work in? What is the thing that matters? And we think so differently when we're hiring than when we're applying. Like when I have several employees. I couldn't tell you if any of my employees went to college because I don't care. They have a specific job that they do and they do it very well. I actually think the top lady who works for, I think she's massively undereducated technically, but she is so good at her job that she requires so minimal oversight. We talk once or twice a week. She just does everything she's supposed to do. The job is always delivered. Does a lot of programming. I think she may have done a 6-week programming boot camp and that's it. And she's running massive programming projects. So talented, doesn't require oversight. And if I had looked at a traditional resume or whatever, I would have completely missed that. But I was like, this is the job. Can you do this type of programming? It's very specific to my type of work we do. And it was a great fit. She's amazing and such a great employee, been with me a long time. But the standing out part is very challenging because people think, like when you're in high school, you think, how do I get into college? Well, I need to have a black belt in karate. I need to
chase the credential list.
Club.
Yep. I need the 4.0. I need to found something. I need to go out and really make a name.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're kind of taught that way from a young age that the more extracurriculars, like I can't imagine that anyone makes a hiring decision based on which potential candidate has the better hobbies. But we think that matters because we're told that matters, or those things, maybe they matter in other industries like politics or movies or something, but they don't matter in most places. And that's really the challenge. Like, how do you know what will make your resume more interesting, or what is the type of things that someone can do to actually be more interesting in their resume? Like, what is the skill they should develop? I can tell you some things that I did, and maybe this will.
Can I interject?
Yes, please.
So, controversial statement to be made here. I want to preface this. So, for the last 3.5, going on 4 years now, I have interviewed roughly 2,100, a little over 2,000 human beings on an annual basis. I interview about 25 to 30 people a week for candidacy to Browning Associates. A lot of people are in need and search of help, right? Within that 150, 200K plus job search, all the way to 7-8 figures. And everyone has that question, Jonathan. Hey, how can I paid someone a couple $1,000s. They've worked on my resume. Hey, I've got a social media person that I hired. They're running my LinkedIn reels. Now AI is automating that. But I'm doing all of this production, all this volume, but I'm not getting to where I want to be. How can I change that? And it really comes back to, okay, well, we know that over 80% of executive roles are filled through introductions, referrals, things of the nature, right? We'll say it that way. Let's pause. I want that to sink in. Over 80% of the time, if you are in the top 10% of earners in this country, I don't care if it's a privately held, publicly traded, for-profit, nonprofit, government, known fact, over 80% ROI when you network, less than 20% ROI when you click apply or you submit, that's the first thing that we need to address. Hey, Dante, how can I spice up my resume to stand out? For what? Less than a 20% ROI? Why don't we crumple the entire resume, throw it away, not even have one, and let's go out into the world. Let's go walk into your local Stop and Shop. Let's go take your kids to their extracurricular that we all crave and say, hey, I need a better work-life balance, right? So that I can go in and be a better present father or mother. Okay, well, why don't we go do that, right? And then, God forbid, we sit down with someone and talk with them on the bleachers or in the room or at the checkout, right? Because that is where so many executives, Browning Associates, my project managers, they're amazing human beings, really. The stories they could tell of executives who are $250,000 plus earners who have landed jobs by, I've got 2 guys out of the Midwest who last year both landed roles because their daughters happened to play volleyball. One of them talked with, I know one of the stories fairly well. The gentleman, he ended up networking with the competing teams. He was in that exact situation. He was sitting on the bleachers, competing team, father sitting next to him, also had a daughter. So 2 daughters are sitting, they're running around playing volleyball in front of their fathers. Their fathers, opposite opposing teams, they're cheering, so on. automatic moment for conflict, but instead you have two emotionally competent and sane people who are capable of sitting next to each other and having potential disagreements. All the while they end up striking up conversation because, hey, that's what we do, we network. And he lands a job at the guy's company. You know why? Because that guy had a lot of problems that he was willing to share in the heat of the moment on the bleacher as their daughters play volleyball against each other. Come to find out, the guy sitting next to had all the answers and was able to blow the guy's mind with, hey, this is how you solve XYZ problems. I handled ABC in this employer that you're dealing with in this story you just told me. And the guy goes, my God, we need someone like you. And he goes, well, I'm happy to sit down and bring me in, right? Are you interviewing? So on. What are the next steps? Who would be the next best person to talk with about this? Welcome to the 80% ROI. So that's where, for all the benefit of resumes, you're lucky if you get a skim at best. And a direct example, a gentleman I'm going to be talking with this week, good luck getting a hold of me, right? It's not personal for everyone who sends me a LinkedIn outreach or request an email and I don't get back to you. There's only 24 hours in a day. And again, I interview over 2,000 people a year professionally, not to mention I have a personal life that I try to maintain along with family and my career aspirations. We all only have so much time. So you have to be compelling in your outreach. I had a gentleman who cold outreached me through LinkedIn messages. And normally I don't give it the time of day just because I don't have the time, and I'm not going to, if I can't give you the quality, I'm not going to, what I feel like is lie to you, right? I'm not going to just generate AI and have it automatically do an autoresponder, right? To gain as many leads as I can. No, I'm here for quality, not quantity. This guy reached out and in his message said something about co-founding or running for the last 7 to 10 years a world surf organization. I know I'm probably a bit tweaking on that, right? But paraphrasing. I responded to the guy. I said, you had me at World Surfing Organization. I'll be happy to meet with you. Why? You want to stand out, right? It's as much as the hobbies. I chuckled at that one because it really is the truth. How do I choose who I talk with? There's a tremendous amount. I'm not going to unpack it all as to how I discern that. But I will say a fair bit of how I choose to spend my time with who I talk with and interview with, it really has to do with how interesting are you to me. If I have to sit here for 8 to 10 hours a day and interview human beings all day long, I'm going to have fun with it because I'm a human. I want to have fun. I'm not a computer. I'm not a software. And so that's where this gentleman, I happen to be an adrenaline junkie. I did 7 years in the Army. I have 25% hearing loss because I shot 777s, right? And I did 11 years in the boating industry. I built a speedboat that I really pulled on mothballs from Charlie McCarthy, the founder of Banana Boat Racing Company out of New England, and then took him on a ride and he signed it for me before I sold it. That's where this gentleman took the time to do the due diligence, I imagine, and said, all right, this guy Dante looks like someone that could benefit me to talk with, have a conversation with, given the guy's probably a 300K plus earner, right? And he's in search, which means he's just kicking tires passively, getting a lay of the, okay, well, it's probably worth talking with someone who is effectively at the epicenter of that, right? As close as you can get to headhunting. And he took his time, he did his due diligence, and he probably scoped me out on LinkedIn to find out this guy, he likes to live life vicariously. Or shall we say, I'm an adrenaline junkie in so many ways. That's where he knew what his hook was going to be, and he knew how to execute, and he kept it concise. The other point to make, and we all practice this every day, myself included. My president, Mike Merrigan, he gets on me sometimes with the net. Less is more, quality over quantity. Resumes aren't going to get you a job. A human being likely will get you the opportunity. A human being is not going to give you a job. If you get a handout, be worried because that means they own you, right? But if you can get the opportunity to sit down and prove to other human beings that you are worth what you claim, welcome to the real world, right? It's interviewing. And a resume doesn't get you there. Relationships and reputations do.
The challenge most people have is we've created a culture where we're afraid to go outside of our comfort zone. This is why now you could order no content. You could bring me my food, but you can't look me in the eyes and do not talk to me or you won't get a tip. That's so wild to me.
It's alarming, yeah.
That we create this and we develop this inability to call and order a pizza. Now it's oh my, call. What if the person judges me?
My sister is like that. I don't get it. I love her to bits. She's afraid to pick up the phone. I'm like, Tia, pick up the phone.
And here's the secret. because everyone's so afraid of that, just doing that and the bar to stand out. And this is something that's so important because I've worked with like some insanely wealthy people, so successful, super famous people. Like, how did you meet that person? And I'm like, well, talk to him. Like I walked up to him and I talked to him like a person. And
Right.
it's not, here's a couple of secrets that I'll share with you. Number one, men almost never get compliments, right?
Yeah.
When is the last time, just be honest, when is the last time someone said, hey, your beard looks really nice?
Yep. It's never, man. Never.
More than a year? Exactly. Think about.
And they never say it to us, right? I'll say this: I get compliments all the time, but I want to be very clear. I network for a living. I know so many people. My job professionally is to network. I know a lot of people. Most people, I meet more people in a month than most human beings meet in a year. And so I take this with a grain of salt. But my fiance, she was again traveling back from Alabama, a conference, so on. Someone she was sitting with had given me a compliment, and I said to her, I'm like, thanks for sharing that. But the guy won't give it to me, right? Every time I see him, he teases me, pokes fun, jabs me in the ribs metaphorically. It's like, that's you're right on track, Jonathan.
And
compliment each other.
That's how easy it is, right, to break through the noise. And the second secret, here's my second secret, is I always talk about an area where they're not stronger than me. So if someone's really, I don't want to talk business, right? I'm going to talk about anything else. I'm going to talk about family stuff or whatever matters to them more, right? Like I always want to talk about, because I don't want to talk where it's like this, they're high and I'm low. So no matter what the area is, right? You and I could have 100 conversations on 100 topics, 50, you're better than me, and 50, I'm better than you. Like,
God, yeah.
I want to choose one where we have parity, being a dad, like anyone can talk about, like every dad will talk about that, right? Or I got woodworking. I could talk about lockpicking because every guy I know watches lockpicking videos, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so you choose these things and it's like, that's really the big secret because there's this idea of shoot your shot, which is you see me for the first time, you see someone you want to work with and you overdo it. And it's like, because you think you have one chance. Just keeping these things in mind, men never get complimented. No one ever buys us a drink, right? And the other thing is to be aware, like, I don't drink anymore and I've done business with people that I know they don't drink. And so I'm like, hey, can I buy you a piece of cake or something else, right? And it's the gesture, even though they're massively more wealthy than me or whatever, it's just like, oh, no one ever does anything nice for me because I'm successful. And so it's nice to get, and it's like, you can buy 30 minutes to an hour with almost anybody for under $10 because
if you know where to do it, right? And some examples of that would be, I want to share something with frankly, the world on this one. I was getting out of the military and the boating industry. And between those two, right, you have a lot of alcohol, you have an unlimited amount of scars and a healthy amount of not great habits, right? Let's just say it how it needs to be said, not great habits. When I first started working in Browning Associates, it's a faith-based company. We have a prayer call internal to the company. And I'm coming off of uniforms, smoking and joking, lighting rounds off. I mean, blowing stuff up, but a very different environment. And I knew I wanted a change in my life, and I didn't even know really how that was going to manifest. But I knew founder of Browning Associates, John, and I told him, I said, listen, just give me a shot. I worked for free for 6 months just to prove to myself that I was qualified and capable, God forbid, even competent enough to work in a company that works with such talented human beings. For the first 2 years, it really bothered me internally, intrinsically, that I was aggravated by the fact that I was noticing and recognizing these patterns and trends where some of the most humble, loving, successful in my mind is, are you happy? Minimum 51% of the year, right? Do you like more days than not of your life? Ideally, you want to go from 51% to like 100%, right? Well, let's just say mandatory minimum in life to be satisfied. 51% of the year or better. If you're not happy, something's off. So most people that are high performers in life and have stable marriages, happy kids, they're able to provide for their family and provide for their direct reports and help other human beings lift themselves up, accomplish their goals. Most of them don't drink. Most of them are religious in some way, shape, or form, or faith-based. And they are extremely open-minded. They are some of the least judgmental human beings you will come across. That is not most of society. That is not most of social media. That is not most of media in general on all platforms. And so it really raised some hairs on the back of my neck as to say, why is this so different? And it made me upset with myself to be candid and to be vulnerable, really, because I was coming from an entire life experience with a lot of it. Frankly, I did about 11 years in the boating industry and seven years in the Army, overlapped a healthy portion, but there's over a decade there. And that wasn't that, right? I didn't recognize that this was new. And I was like, why? And I was upset because I didn't understand it internally until I started to just lean into it and accept it and say, okay, I might not understand this, but I'm going to follow it. God forbid even we say follow it blindly, right? You have to take risks in life. No risk, no reward. More risk, more reward. And it was life-changing. I've been sober for the last year. I'm going on a year and a half now. And I tried for years and I couldn't get sober. And, the military it's a fun time. It takes a toll on you. And it's a superpower. Everyone being sober is a superpower. And for everyone who doesn't like that statement, I will break this down in a very objective way. If you walk into a room full of people who are impaired, right? And under the influence of something that is altering and changing the way that their chemical synapses works in their brain, which is their computer, it slows them down, right? It makes them not as sharp. And you don't have to be anything exceptional. You just have to be normal, but you're sober. You will have an edge. You will have a competitive edge because your brain is not impaired. Your supercomputer, your AI in your skull is operating at 110% performance because you got the rest, you got the sleep, you're eating clean, you're taking care of your body. Whereas majority of the people in the room are not, right? They're at a deficit. They are at a disadvantage. That is black and white. You can take a blood test and prove it. And so that's where, there are sacrifices to be made in life if you want to be in the top 10% of anything. Steph Curry, and I'm not a sports guy, but sports, everybody knows sports. If you want to be the best in whatever sport you compete in, go ask any of the highest performing athletes, top performing athletes, hey, how many practice throws or how many attempts did you have to make? And they say an infinite amount. I have to keep doing it. You know why? Because there are so many other people who are coming up every single year, entering my competitive workforce, and they're willing to put the work in, right? So there is an infinite tax, if I may, that we have to pay in life every day of our lives if we want to exceed the standard. And, I was networking yesterday with someone who, this is something we really need to focus on networking, because that's where over 80% of the time, if you want a job, everyone listening to this, go and press the flesh, go and network. At Browning Associates, we take that predominant approach. And so in the last 7 years, I've gotten some very common feedback. And one of the points that everyone shares with us as clients is, I have imposter syndrome, blah, 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 so many things. I'm afraid to reach out to people. And especially when there's a latency, a gap between the last time they spoke. Yesterday, I went and grabbed coffees and breakfast with a gentleman, Dylan Menard, who I have not seen in 21 years. His father dated my mother when we were young, very young. I remembered him and I remembered his father. He ended up going through college with my best friend, Jacob Franklin, and that's where we reconnected. And then we reconnected through LinkedIn and work. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm a salesman, so I'm going to sit down and talk with anyone. And that's where good luck insulting me. It's going to be tough. And Dylan reached out through LinkedIn and was like, hey, I'd love to catch up with you. And I was like, absolutely, let's go. We jumped in. I walk in and he was so, shall I say, normal, right? He was a tad uncomfortable, didn't know. And starting off the conversation, I can't believe we're here. Ha ha ha. And I'm like, yeah, man, absolutely. Why wouldn't I? It's just, I'm here for at the very minimum, it's worth it for me to show up just to ask you how you've been in life, because what a unique experience and opportunity for me as a human being to reconnect with another human being with a 21-year gap and say, okay, so I knew this person 21 years ago. I knew what they were doing. And then 21 years passes. That's equivalent to, Jesus, a third of a human being's lifespan, to then parachute back into his life and say, hey, tell me what's it been like? I've missed a third of your life. How have you changed? What have you learned? It must be, I guarantee there is something I can learn from him. And I guarantee that there is something I can share with him of value. And to your point of how do you really benefit from all this? How can you make that impact within people? How can you offer value? Instead of going into a conversation with someone and trying to figure out how you can leverage them, right? That's not networking. Networking at its core, by definition, is the transfer of knowledge and information for mutual benefit. The transfer of knowledge and information for mutual benefit. Ask them. You don't need to sit down and write a dissertation in every networking call. We're all human. Just ask them. How can I help you? What are you struggling with? Let me tell you a little bit about what I know, how I do it, and where I'm best knowledgeable. Ask me anything you want. And then once you have that transfer of information and you give them something of value that they sincerely appreciate, again, this is human nature. We want to reciprocate. And so they will naturally lean in and say, okay, thank you so much for sharing that and teaching me that thing. I've been struggling with it for XYZ amount of time. How can I help you? What's going on in your life? Tell me about this. And that's where you will find natural benefit within networking versus applying to jobs, because you never get that opportunity. And humans aren't even looking at your job submissions anymore, and AI software is, or software in general is, which means it's completely analytical and they're deducing you to nothing but keywords and phrases. Again, you want to press the flash because someone who has real problems, who's managing direct reports in a team in a company, will have opportunities for you to present solutions. The more valuable your solution, thus your communication skills, rapport building, and storytelling at large, the more you refine your communication skills, the higher the ROI, the shorter of amount of time it will take for you to find something that's the best fit for you.
Yeah, there's this thing we do when we're outreaching, which is we overcomplicate it. And I always say, here's the secret. I think, what would work on me? The number of people who are surprised that I've read one article they've written on LinkedIn, it's like 99%. They're like, it's like, I own 99% of the guests on the show are people I pursued, people I outreach to. Every once in a while, someone slips through who reaches. So rare. And every single time people are, how did you find me? Why did you choose me? It's like, well, I read your profile. I read the things you write about. I looked at your perspective.
Ask me that too.
I want something.
Why me?
And it's so common. And they're like so surprised because there's the assumption now that everyone uses the mass approach. And there's an element of that to everything, right? But there's always an intention. And there's like, no, I'm looking for people. Maybe I message 20 people that fit a certain thing I'm looking for, a certain perspective I'm looking for, but that's it. And it's like the bar to get through is so low. And I'll tell you how someone got on this show. Okay.
Sure.
She sent me a picture of her holding 5 copies of my book.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? Yeah. So long as you believe she can offer your crowd, your followers value, why not?
She bought my book. I was like, she goes, I think she bought 10 copies. She goes, I loved your book. I bought 10 copies to give away to my friends. And I was like, what? And think about that. It's like $7, right? I've actually never held a physical copy of any of my books. The one time I ordered them, because I live so far away, they were destroyed in a sea storm. So I've never held a physical copy of my book. So that was very exciting for me. It's like, that's all you have to do. How about this? The number of executives who have a book with like 6 reviews, you can use this on so many people. This will work on almost everybody. I know so many really, really well-known people this would work on. Almost everyone, right? Unless their book has like blown the doors off. Most people are, especially if you've actually read it, that's even more shocking because most people pretend they've read my book or pretend they've listened to the show. If you actually can mention
you can tell.
Like every once in a while,
you should be able to
exactly.
tell.
Everyone like mentions episode from like 200 episodes ago and they ask a specific question. I was like, wait, you actually listen to the show? Most people just say they do, which is fine, but that's really powerful. I think that's a powerful note to end on, is that it doesn't take that much to demonstrate. You don't have to read 20 books by me. You can read, honestly, you can just buy one and take a picture, it turns out, but you can just take a look and go, what does this person care about? Like when I was younger and single, different things interested me. I literally don't do anything other than work and dad stuff. My life is so boring compared to what it used to be, because the things that interested me before now, like when I look at all of the things, I used to free climb, which is insane. Like, I used to free climb the cliffs.
It's pretty crazy, honestly.
Like as a unathletic fat guy, I would climb like a 200-meter cliff. I'm like, I can probably do it. Like insane. And the tide's coming in and then you climb to the top and there's a goat at the top and you're like, well, I've seen how this movie ends.
Yeah.
Not winning that. And it's like all these things, and I've surfed a lot of places. So we could talk about that all day long. But what interests me now has really changed. And I found that if you just say to someone something as simple as like, other than work, what matters to you? Or what do you love to do? What's your favorite thing to do? People will tell you. It's not a secret. Now, my answer changes all the time because I go in and out of different hobbies. But you can find out the things that matter to someone, and then you can have a really normal conversation. We'll end on this note. I met this really, really, really famous person. I didn't know. I didn't recognize him. And I was in a bar, walked up next to him, and I said something to him like really flippant, like something really silly, like, hey, what are you doing in this line? Just like randomly. I didn't know it was actually a famous person. And we start talking, buys me a drink. This is when I was drinking like 20 years ago or whatever. We're hanging out for like 20 minutes. And I go back to my friends and they're all looking at me like this. How do you know him? I go, what do you mean? He was next to me in line. And they go, he was like captain or one of the top players on England's football team at the time. So like,
Wow.
you're talking about as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Like really, really not bad. Like I would have recognized, but like one step away. I was like, they were like, what did you do? And I was like, I think I just talked to him like a person. Like I'm notorious for meeting celebrities and not realizing it, and kind of like that's how, and most of my deals have come in the way you talk about it, is like, if you just treat everyone normal, so many opportunities come away. The mistake most people make is that they act different. They act weird because they want something from you. If you just don't do that,
this is a phenomenal point. So I want to just full circle this statement for you. You have to be yourself. You have to be yourself, because no matter what you do in the short term to acquire the job, I don't care how you get to it, say you acquire the job, fantastic. I promise you, if you were not authentic, if you were not honest, if you were not truthful within the interviews and the acquisition, the minute you sit into that role and they start to put the screws to you, and all of a sudden the real responsibilities of that job start to weigh on your shoulders, you will crack, you will fail in some way, shape, or form. And everyone around you in that company who bet on you, who trusted you and took your word, is going to see that and be disappointed. And ultimately, then you're going to be out in search again. And these patterns and trends of people overselling, overpromising, under-delivering, so on, there are a multitude of ways that it manifests and shows non-verbally within not only the work history documents people call resumes, but also within people's track records and their word tracks, in fact. That's where, tough love, but I promise you, if you follow this, it will work. If you're not getting the feedback that you desire within your interviews or within your networking, you have to ask yourself the tough question of, okay, is it me? Right? Because, I to your point, Jonathan, I interview a lot of people and I love talking with interesting people. Someone like yourself, I mean, my God, we could keep going. If someone's not interested in you, or if you, put it this way, if you have value, if what you know has value to the audience that you are entertaining in that moment, they will naturally lean in. They don't care about titles. They don't care if you're the captain of the football team. They care about, oh, hey, this guy, Jonathan, I just met at the bar. He happens to know a crap ton about AI, and my kid's been talking about AI, and I'm trying to learn it. Hey, Jonathan, can I take 30 minutes to an hour with you? Sit down, share a couple beers, and we can talk. All the while, you have no idea you're talking to the equivalent of a social magnate. You're just having a human relationship, right? And that's where, if you're not able, for the audience, for the listeners here, if you are struggling to captivate an audience, ask yourself, okay, well, what is it that I could offer them? What is it that they need, right? What is it that would help them? And if I don't currently possess that, how can I possess that? What steps can I take to possess that, to improve myself? And thus my takeaway for all of you is invest in yourselves. Take that trip, get that life experience. Go out, and if you want to acquire a credential, but understand how it applies. You should spend every minute of your life chasing your dreams and improving your value, increasing your value, which comes in the form of what knowledge, information can I absorb and then practice and share with others. The more knowledge and information you acquire, the more valuable you become. Thus, the more people will lean into you and find you valuable and want to leverage your time. And as soon as that switches, where you become so valuable that everybody wants your time, you will then realize why some things don't make sense on paper, right? Why is it someone charges $50 an hour for their time and another person charges $5,000 an hour, or $50,000 an hour to go out and give keynote speeches? Therein lies how valuable is your time, which is nothing more than saying how valuable is the information you know and your ability to articulate it. Therein lies investing in yourself.
Yeah, I think this is an important lesson, which is that it's when you put out your resume or when you kind of enter where everyone else is, the odds are always against you, right? You enter this tournament. And I always say to people that I've never like I've done a lot of ghostwriting. Whenever someone says they're talking to other ghostwriters, I'm like, all right, I'm not doing this. Like if you're like, we're interviewing 10, I'm like, I'm not good at winning those. In fact, I've never been hired from those. I'm good at one-on-one. You meet me, I show you my work, you like it, we work together. That's it. Once you start entering competitions, it starts to become whether they go, oh, it's like a pricing game. This person said this much. This person, I'm like,
you have to know what they're looking for. You need to know the audience's motivators.
And when you're doing that with resumes, the deck is against you because even if you're the best, you're still having to win a tournament every single time. And there's an element of luck. So I think there's been a really good lesson for people to remind you that like there's so many ways AI can help you, which is to help you to scan. There's a really good trick I learned. This was
due diligence.
Had on the show last week.
In a statement, due diligence.
You can scan their profile and say, what about their profile is interesting? What charities do they donate to? What do they talk about that's unique? So I would say, like, what does Dante talk about other than his industry, right?
Yeah.
And then the other things, then you like, that's where it can help you to start to figure. Now, you don't want to call up and say, hey, did you see the game last night? Which one? I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. But you can say, this person cares about a charity. That's one that I care about. We can talk about that. You have a rapport there. So it could be that simple. I think this is really helpful for people because it is easy to get distracted by technology in the wrong places. For people who are thinking about, wow, this guy's the best. I would love to kind of advance my career, kind of maybe even find someone to hire that Dante knows. What's the best place for people to find you, connect you, kind of see the cool things you're doing online, the things that caught my attention?
Yeah, I mean, two primary forms, right? I would say you're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn, right? Dante Crowther. And likewise, you can send me an email, dante@executivejobsearch.net. Those would be the two best forms. If you're in New England and you're local, I'd be happy to grab coffees with you, so long as you're an interesting person and I think there's mutual benefit. I'll be honest with you right up front, right? But that's where it's I want to offer that positive encouragement, that positive challenge to people. If you believe your time is that valuable, if you believe what you have to offer to the world is that valuable, you should bet on yourself. You should take me up on that. Because you'd be amazed at what you can accomplish when you put two people in a room who have a shared passion and vision for accomplishing a shared goal. But yeah, Dante at executivejobsearch.net. Be happy to help anyone.
Amazing. I'll put the notes in the show notes and, of course, all the links on LinkedIn and below the video for everyone watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here, Dante, for an amazing episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast.
Thank you, Jonathan. You've been a fantastic host.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next Monday with more tips and strategies on how to leverage AI to grow your business and achieve better results. In the meantime, if you're curious about how AI can boost your business's revenue, head over to artificialintelligencepod.com/calculator. Use our AI revenue calculator to discover the potential impact AI can have on your bottom line. It's quick, easy, and might just change the way you think about your business. While you're there, catch up on past episodes, leave a review, and check out our socials.